Today we're going to start a discussion about the 2013 Kentucky All-State Music Auditions Clarinet excerpts. And we're going to start today with the slow clarinet excerpt, the one in B major. Out of the Rose book, it's number 29 in the traditional Rose 32 Studies book. I'll start off by playing, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the lyricism of this piece. Now, that was one way to play this piece. The piece is marked andante, which literally means walking speed. So it's not a fast piece, it's not a slow piece. It just sort of meanders along. And the thing the student needs to remember about this piece is this is the lyrical excerpt. So generally in this audition you've got two excerpts. You've got a fast one, we want to see how fast you can move your fingers and your tongue and so forth. But this excerpt, the slow excerpt, we want to see how beautifully you can play, how musically you can play, how expressively you can play. And the thing I always tell my students is that we want to forget that you're playing the clarinet, and we just want to hear you sing through your instrument. So a couple things to start off to think about. First of all, you set a tempo, and this is a nice thing about this excerpt, is that we like to hear what you're feeling about it. So some people will take it a little bit faster. Some people might take it a little bit slower. Ultimately, as long as the tempo is sort of in the ballpark of andante, you're going to be okay. What we want to hear, though, is your ability to shape and phrase the musical line. Whatever tempo you take, you're probably not going to just stick right to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. You're not going to just stick to a steady eighth note. There's going to be a little bit of rubato involved in this piece. Rubato literally means to rob. So we spread a little bit from this beat to this beat, and maybe we then catch up at the tail end of the measure. But if you're going to sing this, you're probably not going to sing it just like a metronome would beat out time. So this is going to take a little effort on your part and the part of your teacher to help find those spots that naturally want to pull a little bit and naturally want to push a little bit. To begin with, I like to tell my students to let the moving notes roll a little bit. So in music, frequently we roll through the small notes, in this case the eighth notes, and then we get to the long notes, and those are points of repose, like this. Now this is not a license to rush. That would sound ridiculous, but it does tell you that we're sort of imitating human speech. Sometimes when we've got something important to say, we might push a little bit to get to the important word, or we might actually wait a little bit and cause the person listening to attend to what we're saying a little bit more carefully. And so a general rule for me is I'm letting the eighth notes roll just a little bit, and then I'm pulling back and I'm sort of catching my breath on the long notes. This piece is really divided into two sections. Today we're going to talk just a little bit about the second all-state excerpt for the clarinet, marked Tempo di Polacca. Let me play just a little bit for you. Sorry about that last note, I just couldn't resist. Anything, one of the first things you need to know about this piece is what Tempo di Polacca means. First of all, Polacca is a type of dance. Actually, it's one of the national dances of Poland. And as a dance, the whole piece is going to be very, what I like to call vertically oriented. We're going to think about movement to this piece of music. So in a sense, we're going to be thinking almost dance-like accompaniment as opposed to a lyrical solo. The second thing is that this is a dance that doesn't just start and go with the metronome in a steady pace. It moves ahead, it pulls back. There's a sense of pesante or a rugged quality to this dance. It's whimsical and it's constantly changing. So if we were to just put the metronome on and play, it really wouldn't capture the spirit of this piece at all. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to look up some polaccas on YouTube or wherever you go, and actually you're going to find these under the term polonaise. So you look up some Chopin polonaises and listen to the way the pianists play the pieces. Listen to the sudden changes of style or character. For instance, you end the first or the second line in a pretty strong manner. And then right where it picks up at the beginning of the third line, completely different. One might use the terms masculine and feminine, or we might be starting that third line with a rather coquettish or coy kind of quality, but it's not going to be the same. And I think when you listen to pianists, great pianists like Rubinstein or Horowitz play polonaises on the piano, you can hear these qualities that if we can capture this spirit on the clarinet, it's going to make this excerpt so much more enjoyable and so much more authentic to this Tempo di Polacca. A couple little things. I'm going to encourage you to play. We've talked about this in the last discussion with the B major lyrical etude. You want to keep the fingers down. I'm going to start this piece, for instance, with the right hand B key engaged. And I'm going to try to engage as many times as I possibly can both pinky keys at the same time. One of the places where we're going to get a lot of technical glitches on this excerpt is when we're going back and forth from left to right hand B keys. So to avoid that, see if you can engage both of the keys at the same time. It really, really helps. Another thing that stylistically is sort of important, the grace notes. You're just going to slip these grace notes in very, very quickly, almost as if they're just sort of a whimsical little passing flurry there. They're not to be really emphasized or brought out. They're just a little filigree, if you will. Also, the use of the trills. I don't like to start the trills and just go a single tempo or speed. I'm going to start the trills, especially at the end of the first line, for instance. I'm going to start slow, and then I'm going to pick up momentum, and it's going to actually help on a half note that can remain, if we're not careful, sort of stagnant. It's going to help propel the line forward, even though we're just sitting on the half note. And that happens on several occasions. Also, make sure you're really careful. I'm sure the judges are going to be really picky about the articulation on this excerpt. You see a lot of times where we're slurring 3 and tonguing 1, or slurring the 2 middle notes in a group of 4/16. You want to really be careful to make sure that we hear with clarity that we hear all those articulations precisely as written, because that's going to be one of the criteria upon which you're judged and compared to some other kids. So make sure with this particular excerpt, look up some piano polonaises. Go online, take a look at how these the pianists play these pieces. And although this isn't strictly a polonaise, it's certainly in that style. It's a dance-like piece. It's subject to fits and starts and changes of character and mood. And if you can capture that on your clarinet, that will be so much more enjoyable for you to play, and it will be so much more enjoyable for the adjudicators to listen to. So have fun with this piece. Learn all the notes, get all the articulations, but then see if we can play in an authentic dance-like style. Okay, have fun and good luck and practice hard. Today we're going to continue with our discussion of the lyrical B major etude for the 2013 Kentucky All-State Band and Orchestra auditions. And today we're going to talk very specifically about ways to make this excerpt more legato, more beautiful, more lyrical, or more like a singer would sing the piece. First off, a quick note. If you're not practicing your long tones and slow scales and working on breathing, I tell my students that our goal is to be able to hold a note for a minute. And we actually have contests in the studio called March to a Minute, in which we constantly are working on our capacity, and our capacity at all dynamic levels. Piano or mezzo piano, certainly easier to play for an extended period of time, but gradually working up to the point where we can play mezzo forte and forte for 30, 40, 50, even 60 seconds. That will go a long way toward your being able to hold out these long phrases, to taper gently and beautifully at the end of the phrases, and so on. So breath capacity and your ability to sustain is vital, it's crucial, and your daily work with long tone studies is absolutely essential to building up this aspect of your playing. Today we're going to talk specifically about your pinky keys in this excerpt, and how if we use them correctly, they can really go a long way toward making a real legato quality for us. And if we're not using them correctly, they'll get rather clunky and they'll sort of get in the way of the line. So to start with, make sure, in general, your teachers have probably told you that when you get to throat tones, the G sharp, the A, and the A sharp, B flat on the back, that we're starting to engage some of the fingers in the right hand and even the left hand. But most certainly we can start to put the pinky keys down, and I encourage my students to engage the key of the note that's coming next. So for instance, in this particular piece, we have this opening phrase. Okay, so the last beat, second to last eighth note of the piece, we have a G sharp followed by an A sharp followed by a B natural. I'm going to play the B natural on the second measure with my left hand. So what that means is by the time I get to the G sharp, 2 notes previous, we're not going to be playing that with just this key down. I'm going to have my left hand pinky and my right hand pinky for sure. And I'm also engaging some other keys, we call these vent keys, to help give the G sharp and the A sharp a little bit more ring. As you know, when we play them wide open, they're kind of nasal. We call them throat tones for a reason. They don't render a really beautiful tone. So we're going to engage some of our fingers down here to help keep a little bit more of the resonance in the horn. But at the very least, I'm going to have the B natural key down with my pinky and the C, the D sharp, which is coming along on the heels of this in the next beat. Those guys are going to be ready to go. If not, you're likely to get a big clunk, and that is interrupting of a legato line. So while I'm playing that third big beat of the first measure, I'm preparing my pinky on the left-hand B key for what's coming next. Furthermore, when I go to the next note, the F sharp, I can leave the B key down with my left-hand pinky. There's no need to lift it up. Leave it down because you're coming right back to it. So we're going to keep that down, and then we're going to have a nice legato as opposed to the snapping of the pinkies. If you take a look at the next measure as we ascend to the high B natural, what's the next note in the measure? It's a D sharp. So when I'm playing the B natural up high, I'm going to put the D sharp key down. Notice there's not much of a change. But what's going to happen, that's going to give me a little bit of counter pressure. It's going to make it easier to hold the horn in my hands. And then I'm going to be able to make a smooth transition. So we're always looking ahead with the pinkies, and if we can get those keys down, we want them down. In the next measure, one of the trickier spots in the whole piece, at least from a finger standpoint, we play C sharp. We're going to come to the C sharp on the left-hand side. And while we're playing in the middle of that note, since it's an extended note, we're going to switch to the right-hand C sharp so that we can get to the left-hand G sharp. We come back down to the right-hand C sharp, but while we're playing that last right-hand C sharp, we switch while the note is being played to the left, so that then we can continue on with the passage on the right. So we have left, switching to right, and the G sharp is with the left. We start the last C sharp on the right, but we switch to the left. And it all happens very quickly. This is going to be a measure that you're going to have to work out. It's a little bit unusual. We don't oftentimes switch the fingers right in the middle of the note. But if you want to make a beautiful legato, that's what's going to have to happen. Otherwise, you're going to be flopping around, trying to switch sides like that, and that's just not going to be an acceptable solution. So you're going to have to switch left and right hand pinkies on the C sharp during the notes. Okay? Look 2 bars later. This is the third measure of the second line. We have a passage. That can be particularly difficult to make smooth. So when you play the first C sharp, then you go to the A sharp. While you're playing the A sharp, the right hand pinky is down for the D. Then the second to the last note, you're playing the G sharp, and your right hand pinky stays down for the C sharp, the note that's coming next. And then when you play the F sharp, the octave F sharps in the next measure, you can just leave this finger down as an anchor, and it will actually give the F sharps a very nice quality. So we get as opposed to, again, the hammering of these constant B keys. Okay? One more quick thing. In the last measure of the fourth line, well, you're on that second to last note, the A sharp, the whole right hand can go down, and certainly the pinky keys can go down, so that we eliminate a big chunking sound at the very end of the measure. Okay, so we don't want that kind of quality. We want an absolutely smooth, beautiful, lyrical line. Again, imagine a singer singing this line, and they would not be going dee da hee haw hoo hoo hoo, right? That would be ridiculous, and it is just as silly to hear it on a clarinet or a flute or any other wind or brass instrument. We should be able to make as lyrical quality and exchange of intervals as the singer can. So think about the pinkies, especially think about the right hand, and think about the fingers that you can engage in preparation for the next note while you're playing the current note, obviously, because that's going to be a real key, a critical key into making this sound really beautiful, really lovely, and giving your piece an interpretive edge that others might not have. Okay, I hope this helps. Please let me know if you need more specific instruction, and I'll be happy to do another session on this piece. Good luck!